Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a time of unprecedented confusion where the most basic facts about human behavior are often brushed aside in favor of ideology. But the truth is this: human beings communicate not only with words, but with the body. And nowhere is this more subtle, more layered than in the body language of women. You see, female body language isn't just social performance. It's the result of millions of years of evolutionary refinement. It speaks volumes not in sentences, but in micro-expressions, in posture, in proximity. And if you ignore that, if you pretend it doesn't exist, you're willfully blinding yourself to reality. And that's no virtue. Female body language is not random. It's a pattern expression of evolutionary logic. It is the unconscious script written by millions of years of natural selection. Her gestures are not just social, they are survival-driven signals finely tuned for precision. When a woman enters a room, her body has already spoken before her lips part. Biological intelligence is encoded in her movements, far beyond conscious intention. Every hair tuck, every eye flicker, every breath has context. None of it is meaningless. This is not about mysticism or magic. This is about the architecture of human mating psychology. Attraction is not merely emotional, it is biological strategy disguised as behavior. She smiles not just out of politeness, but to disarm, to gauge trust, to test response. The dilation of her pupils is an autonomic reaction, not an opinion. Her posture adjusts in real time to proximity, dominance, and comfort. It is data, not decoration. You're not interpreting art, you're reading the human genome in motion. What men often dismiss as subtle is actually a highly calibrated system of evolutionary messaging. A glance over the shoulder is not just flirtation, it's a test of presence, of courage, of interest. Her feet pointing toward you are not accidental, they betray orientation and intention. The way she stands is a map of internal psychology rooted in safety, threat detection, and reciprocity. The tone of her laughter, the frequency of her blinking, the slight lean forward, they're diagnostic tools. Every signal is layered. It's never just one thing, it's context within context. Even silence has a posture, and that posture has meaning. You cannot afford to interpret female body language through male perception. It's a different operating system. Men tend to communicate to transmit. Women often test to verify, to feel into truth. Her body speaks first, checks for resonance, and only then permits emotional vulnerability. This is a protective sequence psychological gatekeeping at the somatic level. In a world where danger has historically worn a male face, her body evolved to survive first, connect second. If you don't understand this, you risk mistaking discomfort for shyness and openness for promiscuity. Misreading female body language isn't just socially awkward, it's dangerous, disrespectful, and delusional. It leads to heartbreak, to harassment, to confusion between assertiveness and aggression. Her avoidance of eye contact may not mean disinterest, it may mean she's assessing risk. A fleeting smile might not be an invitation, it could be appeasement conditioned by centuries of survival behavior. The female body has had to learn to say no in 1,000 silent ways because speaking it aloud wasn't always safe. Her tension is memory, cultural, ancestral, personal. When she crosses her legs away from you, she's closing a door no words could lock. When she plays with her necklace while speaking, her nervous system is co-regulating, subtle but significant. These are not tricks, they are protective mechanisms hardwired through generations of selective pressure. To pretend women are just hard to read is to admit you haven't bothered learning the language. And make no mistake, this is a language. It's not taught in school, but it's written in the eyes, the hands, the breath. And if you can't read it, you are functionally illiterate in one of the most important forms of human connection. We've created a culture that prizes verbal consent while ignoring the precursors of embodied hesitation. But her body will show you long before she tells you, if only you're paying attention. The blush of her cheeks, the tilt of her hips, the subtle mirroring of your energy, it's a silent symphony. She is not flirting for fun, she is measuring compatibility. The biological drive to select, to filter, to test is not cynical, it is survival optimizing for the best future. That is the sacred function of female body language. It is the intelligence of nature preserving itself. Every motion is a message. Do you understand me? Do you see me? Can I trust you? To respond with arrogance or ignorance is to fail the test before it's even begun. When a woman fidgets with her hands while maintaining eye contact, she's managing internal conflict. Approach meets caution. That conflict is not weakness, it's wisdom accumulated through centuries of observation and suffering. She leans in when trust grows and retreats. When you overreach, this is not mood, it's boundary. If her body pulls away while her words remain polite, believe the body. Her body is the historian, her words are often the diplomat. When her pupils shrink, when her smile freezes, when her voice goes higher, those are red flags wrapped in courtesy. She owes you nothing, not even clarity. It's your responsibility to observe, not to pressure, to push, or to project. A woman's attraction is never purely aesthetic. It is deeply sensory, responsive, and contextual. She's evaluating scent, voice tone, posture, even symmetry and motion. You think you're impressing her with confidence, but she's reading your nervous system. She feels your tension before you speak. She sees whether your shoulders collapse under stress or stay firm. She's not just observing masculinity, she's testing its integrity. You might be performing status, but she's sensing congruence. And if those two don't match, if your energy contradicts your posture, her trust evaporates. You cannot fake body literacy, you must embody it. Because women are not taught to analyze, they're taught to feel, to intuit. So if your presence doesn't align with your intentions, she'll feel the dissonance before you speak. When she brushes her hair behind her ear mid-conversation, she may be exposing her vulnerability. Watch closely. This isn't seduction, it's assessment. She is deciphering safety in microseconds because biology doesn't wait for language. Your job is not to decode her like a puzzle, it's to witness her like a mirror. Female body language doesn't lie, it adapts. And the more attuned you are, the more fluent you become. Fluency in female body language isn't manipulation, it's maturity. It's psychological attunement masquerading as awareness. When you learn to read her body, you begin to see the world through layers of nuance you never imagined your breasts in. This isn't just dating advice, it's sociobiological education. To ignore this is to remain blind to the human condition. Understanding is not control, it is reverence. It is the discipline of seeing what is rarely said and honoring what is constantly shown. Because when a woman offers her presence, it is not trivial. It is a biological risk, a leap of faith encoded in limbic language. And if you're not ready to listen with your eyes, you're not ready to speak with your soul. To understand body language is not to control others, it is to finally understand yourself in relation to others. Reading another human being is not an act of dominance, it's the first act of mutual respect. People who call it manipulation are often the ones who fear the truth of what the body says when the mouth stays silent. Communication literacy doesn't begin with speaking, it begins with perceiving. To perceive is to care, to notice is to value, to interpret is to engage with human complexity. You were born with eyes, not just to see the world, but to see into people, yet no one taught you how. We teach reading, writing, speaking, but never the art of observing. When a woman adjusts her posture during a conversation, she's not trying to be mysterious, she's trying to be understood without risk. The failure to recognize these signs isn't innocence, it's ignorance disguised as virtue. To read a body is not to violate it, it is to witness it with reverence and attention. The body is always transmitting. The question is whether you've tuned into the right frequency. Literacy is knowing the alphabet. Fluency is knowing when a glance is louder than a word. Communication is not just verbal, it is visceral, visual, and vibrational. The most important things people say, they never say out loud. A woman might say, "I'm fine," while her body screams, "I'm not safe." If you ignore the body, you betray the truth. Words can lie, eyes rarely do. You can't fake authenticity in your posture. It either flows from congruence or collapses under scrutiny. To truly see someone is to listen without interrupting their body. Most men don't fail to impress, they fail to perceive. She might lean in to encourage or lean back to protect, but if you can't see the difference, you're speaking in the dark. Understanding her body language isn't a trick, it's a sign of emotional maturity. Your emotional intelligence is tested not by your words, but by your ability to recognize silent shifts. Flirting isn't manipulation, it's a dance of trust unfolding frame by frame. She might touch her face, adjust her clothes, or shift weight all under the radar of speech, but not of intention. When you notice her subtle cues, you're not invading, you're aligning. You're learning her language instead of forcing her into yours. Misreading her silence as consent is not just a mistake, it's a moral failure. To be literate in communication is to understand boundaries before they're spoken. To interpret her hesitance as a signal to slow down instead of push forward is wisdom, not weakness. To pause when her energy shifts is a mark of discipline, not submission. You don't need a yes or no when her body already whispered both in motion. Powerful men aren't forceful, they're aware. They know the difference between reaction and invitation. You don't learn this from a book, you learn this from paying attention. A woman's eyes tell you more than her words ever will if you know how to read. Every movement is a paragraph, every shift is a sentence. The tilt of her head can ask a question or deliver an answer. To be fluent in this language is to speak with your whole nervous system, not just your mouth. You can't perform presence, you have to be it. To see what's not being said requires stillness of the ego. People confuse charm with manipulation because they don't understand connection built on attunement. If you're watching to take advantage, you're not literate, you're a predator with a dictionary. But if you're watching to understand, to match, to support your translating soul into action, to match her energy is not submission, it's harmony. Her boundaries aren't obstacles, they are the sacred geometry of her safety. If you feel entitled to her attention without reading her cues, you've already failed the test of masculinity. A man who reads body language is not a player, he is a listener. The body doesn't lie because it cannot afford to. It is evolution's diary. You cannot love a woman you refuse to understand. You cannot protect someone whose signals you ignore. You cannot connect deeply if you only hear words and miss the entire storm beneath them. Her laugh might be forced. Her smile might be survival. Can you see that? Are you brave enough to adjust when her body asks for space, even if her words are too polite to demand it? Are you disciplined enough to wait for alignment instead of chasing validation? To be fluent in body language is not a pickup skill, it's a relational necessity. You don't need games when you understand pacing, comfort, and emotional tempo. You don't seduce with tricks, you connect with depth. Reading her body isn't about scoring, it's about respecting rhythm and regulation. Her sigh could mean exhaustion, anxiety, disappointment, but you'd never know unless you were actually present. It's not about analyzing her like a subject, it's about honoring her as a sovereign being. Attention without agenda is the highest form of connection. Presence without performance is rare and women feel that. If she shifts closer when you speak, it's not coincidence, it's trust blooming. If her tone softens, if her eyes linger, if her shoulders relax, you've created safety. And safety is the precondition for attraction, arousal, and authentic intimacy. Attraction doesn't grow in performance, it grows in presence. You don't earn it by being loud, you earn it by being tuned in. A real man doesn't just act, he perceives. He doesn't just want, he listens. He doesn't just chase, he observes. The highest level of communication is not speech, it's resonance. You feel her before you touch her. You understand her before you ask for anything. You offer alignment before asking for access. You attune to her nonverbal world because you value what most overlook. You care about the unspoken as much as the said. This is not softness, it's strength in the deepest form. It's the kind of power that doesn't control, it connects. It doesn't push, it synchronizes. And that is the mark of true literacy, not reading books, but reading people. If you want better relationships, learn her language. If you want deeper intimacy, read her cues. If you want to be trusted, prove that you can understand her when she isn't explaining herself. Don't wait for her to say stop when her posture already screamed it. Don't wait for her to say yes when her whole body already leaned toward you. Communication literacy isn't sexy, it's sacred. It's not a tool to use, it's a lens to live through. And once you become fluent in it, you don't just connect better, you become better. You elevate from cluelessness to clarity, from pressure to presence, from chaos to coherence. Because at the end of the day, true communication isn't about what you say, it's about what you see. When you ignore what a woman's body is communicating, you are not just misunderstanding her, you are disrespecting her experience. To dismiss nonverbal cues is to pretend that biology is irrelevant and context doesn't matter. Misinterpretation is not a neutral act, it is a fracture in the foundation of mutual respect. Every time you miss a cue, you trade connection for confusion. The price of not listening is paid in broken trust and silent exits. Relational breakdown doesn't begin with betrayal, it begins with not noticing. When her body tightens and you keep advancing, you're not persistent, you're oblivious. You cannot claim to care while disregarding her signals of discomfort. Ignoring her withdrawal is not boldness, it's blindness dressed as bravery. You create social dysfunction the moment you prioritize your intention over her response. A man who doesn't listen to the body language of a woman is like a pilot flying with broken instruments. You cannot lead if you can't read. Most relationships don't die from conflict, they erode from misalignment left unchecked. When she starts pulling back and you pretend not to see it, you're not saving the relationship, you're sabotaging it. Every interaction you mishandle adds another crack in the mirror of communication. Her silence is not a vacuum, it is a scream you've chosen not to hear. Discarding the body is not masculine, it is mechanical. You cannot build intimacy with someone whose discomfort you continually ignore. Trust is not an entitlement, it is earned through attention. When she steps away and you lean in, you've inverted the laws of emotional gravity. Real connection is not forced, it's felt. If you need to override her energy to get her attention, you've already lost her.